Our last speaker before we get to bringing everyone onto the stage, a Canadian. I lived in Canada for 3 years myself, and it's great to have a Canadian here. I remember Andrew's father well, and I think he is still well and with us, so that's good to know as well. So Andrew Reid is the founder and chief product officer of Vision Critical, and we welcome him to the stage. Thank you.
I'm happy to say that hockey's back, so for the few people that know what hockey is or care, it's a big deal for us in Canada. And before I start, I just want to make a comment on Anne-Marie's speech. And you look at how social care is manifesting itself. A few weeks ago, I was on an airline and I got bumped from my seat. And while there was a huge queue of people fuming at the poor lady at the desk trying to figure things out, about 3 or 4 of us banded together and got on Twitter and very quickly started amassing, quite a shitstorm on Twitter. And we got a faster response through Twitter than all the people that were standing in the line from the people in customer care at the airline that I will not mention. But they did do a very good job. So I do think that curve is happening fast, and it's amazing to see some brands get it and are picking up on the curve faster than others. So the title of my question is Stop Asking Stupid Questions. I'm going to spend some time actually talking about the lonely respondent, the survey participant. When I think about the future, I think that we're not going to have some world where we never ask people questions. We're hopefully just going to stop asking stupid questions. And we actually have to take the bull by the horns and really start owning this. And I think we can take a lot of cues from the world of social and what social technologies are already doing, the things that we're already using in our day-to-day lives. So just to frame it up, I think the experience for a participant often is, I already told you that, I thought you knew me, I feel like I'm not treated like a person that matters. Whether that's getting off an airline, getting invited to participate in a survey, and the first question they ask you is, what flight did you take? Well, you know me, you should be able to figure that out yourself. Or getting invited to participate in surveys on questions that I don't care about, topics I'm not interested in. I've told you no 5 times, why do you keep sending emails? So I do think that there is a way, though, looking at social technologies that we can move towards this future. And that future involves fewer targeted, more relevant questions. So let's just have a look at what's existing in the marketplace and the technologies that are out there right now. So social signing. This is not a big deal. A lot of people use social authentication. When I go to the sites that I care about, whether it's a news site, or something that I'm interested in automotive or sports, I'll always use my social login because I don't have to answer the same tedious questions over and over again, whether that's Facebook or Twitter or my LinkedIn account. And then we move to things like targeted. You've got technologies like Foursquare, things like Banjo that are really good for me understanding if I follow brands or themes I care about, being able to push me information when I'm close to areas that are relevant. So in this case, if I've got Foursquare app and I'm following the Independent Film Channel, this person happened to be in Oregon close to Powell City Books, which is the largest independent bookstore in the world. I'm getting a notification that's relevant. It's very targeted to me. And then when you go into relevant, Amazon. So, the last book that I purchased, I got a bunch of choices and recommendations that were made to me. The same thing happens with Apple Genius. The same thing happens on LinkedIn, recommending friends that I should know or people that I should be following. I mean, show of hands, who here uses Amazon or Apple Genius or any of those recommending features? I'd assume most of us do. Yet, we all have the same experience when it comes to surveys. And I purposely picked a fairly lame survey that I got generically searching the internet to prove the point. But there's a huge disconnect between that online experience that we're having and the survey experience. So if we try and merge the two, we try and look at what happens when we combine behavioral, social, and survey experiences together to really engage respondents. What does that look like? So the first one we'll look at is fewer. And this is something that we've been playing with. We've launched an initiative at Vision Critical called VC Labs. And our goal is just to play around with technologies and look and experiment at the future. We do a lot of profiling questionnaires. And profiling questionnaires are 30 questions you ask a respondent or a research participant before you stage them into a community panel or an insights community. Well, we can eliminate 6 of those questions up front by using things like social authentication. If I enter in my Facebook credentials, I can right away answer 6 of those 30 questions. It's not a big deal. It's easy to ask those questions, but I think there's a real intrinsic value in telling that respondent, telling that person that you care. We actually understand that the rest of your world is a more socially engaged world, so we'll do the same. We'll follow suit, and we'll use things like social sign-on. And I think there's other social markers that we can connect with that are very useful for researchers, whether that's my clout score, whether that's the total number of brands I follow, the total number of posts that I've made, tweets I've made, friends I have. So there's other additional data that we can start to leverage as researchers. On the targeted side, we're playing with a pilot project right now. We've got a bunch of panelists that have agreed to take part in a study. These are people that do frequent establishments that sell spirits. They download an app that they're running right now. Every time they go into a bar in a specific city, we've actually tagged every bar in a city. They immediately get a notice saying, hey, we noticed you just walked into this bar. In 5 minutes, we're going to ask you some questions. I hope that's okay. You say okay. So in 5 minutes, we ask you, what are you drinking? Who are you with? What is the occasion? And do you mind taking some pictures of what you're drinking, of who you're with, and of the surroundings, of what kind of a bar are you in, what kind of advertising, what kind of brands are there. So there's a great way to be targeted. Now, if I'm a beer drinker and I've already agreed to sign up, and when I go into a bar, you're going to hit me up with a survey, well, that's a great experience and something that I'm more than happy to participate in. I'm going to keep pushing the wrong button. There we go. The next one is relevant, and this is an interesting one, I think, especially with things like Pinterest. Pinterest and Facebook. You know, this is the Pinterest wall of a woman that works in our marketing department. So she's a total shoe fanatic, and she self-admittedly will not participate in research on 99% of things that are out there, but if it involves shoes, she is more than happy to. She will get in her car and drive for an hour for a $10 incentive to sit down and talk to people about shoes. She would do a diary study on shoes. So we've got this bird's eye view that social gives us, this ability to sort of look into people's interests, their habits, what excites them. And we can use that as a way to make sure that we're giving people relevant surveys that they're interested in. And I think we can blend those together and we can get to a much more interesting data point. I think part of this speaks to what Kim was saying about the experience her son was having around looking more holistically at the experience that consumers are having and not thinking about them around our specific interests or what we're trying to glean from a research perspective. So I do think this future research reality is exciting. We're still figuring it out. We're continuing to experiment. And I encourage everybody to chat with me or continue to experiment on your own. And I do think in the future we're going to be at this new reality that involves fewer targeted, more relevant questions. Thanks so much.